Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Vetted VA SITREP. Today, we are going to be talking with our good friend, our veteran, broker owner, Isabel Williams, and we're talking really about buyer preparedness in this situational report out. And kind of what we want to talk about is what it takes to be prepared as a buyer for all the things we're about to do. So, first, Isabel, why don't you introduce yourself to the team? Let everybody know who you are and what you do.
Hello, my name is Isabel Williams. I, just like Nate said, own my own little mortgage company right here in Florida. I'm a veteran myself, so of course I love VA. And I love vetted VA because you guys are amazing.
It's even better. I appreciate that. What was your branch of service?
Army. I was part of the 82nd Airborne. They made me jump out of a plane. I didn't want to.
Well, I mean,
it's kind
of like it set you up for a lot of cool things, right? You've had to do a lot of things. You're like compliance. Yeah. I hate compliance. I don't want to do it, but at least you know you can do it.
I could do compliance. I don't want to do compliance.
That's right. Mortgage compliance is not fun, but it is necessary.
It's like pulling teeth. That's why I haven't been to the dentist.
It is like pulling teeth. It is like pulling teeth. All right. So, hey, everybody, what we're going to talk about, really what I did is I asked Isabel to come on. So you're familiar maybe that we, in Vetted VA, we kind of set up with a bunch of squads, and that's how our moderators are separated. And Isabel serves as one of our squad leaders. And actually, so she's got a number of professionals that work with her, and that's what they're moderating. So today is her squad's moderating day. Hotel squad. We stop at H because once we got to Isabel's squad, we're like, all right, that's it. We got to start over. But so they're moderating today. So if you have questions on this and you're commenting here, I'm going to make sure to tag Isabel and some of her squad team on this so we can encounter any of the questions that you may have either during this discussion or afterward if you're catching up with it later on. So we'll start there. But Isabel, you're in Florida. You are a vetted professional. You've been through the testing. You've actually been in this group for how long? I mean, you came in early, right?
In the beginning, Chris made me do it. I got voluntold.
That's right. There's a lot more voluntolding going on lately. And as a broker owner, so do you have a specialty that you do in lending?
So I love my first time home buyers, especially first generation home buyers. I definitely deal a lot with people that struggle with their credit scores, right? Just being ready to buy a house because it is a process.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times you just don't know where to start or what to do. So I would say that's my jam.
One big reason why I wanted you to be my first guest on this topic, right? We're talking about buyer preparedness. So let's talk about that. So we see posts in here. So with roughly almost 30,000 members in Vetted VA right now in our group, and they're coming in regularly, often. Lots of things are popping up, and a lot of people saying, "I want to buy my first house. I don't know where to start."
Yes.
Right? And so if you watch HGTV, Home Garden Network, and you're like, "Hey, I'm going to go buy this house and flip it because that looks like a great idea." There's a lot more to it than that, especially if it's your first time and there's a lot of preparedness. So I'm gonna leave this up to you. Walk me through what's it take to get prepared to even step foot in and talk about buying a house.
Okay. So, it's you want to find a professional that you trust. I think that's the most important. Because there's a lot of bad information out there. And sometimes the things that we think that we can't do, it's really not even true. So I think people are afraid of rejection because, I'm going to call this person, they're going to tell me no, and I can never buy a house again. It's not kind of like that. Well, at least not in this group. I know that a lot of the vetted professionals will take the time to actually put a plan together. You're not ready yet, but these are the things that we need to do to get started. Because if not, what happens is we lose all of that time trying to prepare ourselves when we don't really even know what we're preparing for.
Right.
So I kind of really feel like the first step is to find someone you trust. That's number one. Let them guide you through the requirements. Let them teach you what you need to do, right? All the information that's out there doesn't always apply to us. And there's a lot of information out there. I hear it all the time. Well, somebody told me I had to have a 700 credit score to buy a home. I had to have $20,000 saved up. I don't even know where the $20,000 came from, but I hear that a lot. I haven't been on my job long enough. That's another one. Well,
Right.
were you in school for that job? Do you have prior experience in another field that could apply to show that you have the history? So it's just that everybody's situation is so unique. You can't really judge yourself by what someone else has gone through because it may
Hmm.
not even be applicable. Yeah. So find someone you trust.
So find somebody you trust. How do you find somebody? Like we talk in Vet VA, trust but verify. We're asking people to come in here and say, look, here's the information I just got. Is this real? Is this true? Is this what other questions should I be asking? So how would we tell people, how do you find somebody you trust?
I think just based on the questions, right?
Mm.
So if I get on the phone with someone and they're pushing me right away to just fill out an application and they're not willing to answer questions when I have them, then it's probably not going to be a good fit. You
Yeah.
know, are they asking me about my goals? Are they asking me about some of my history? Are they concerned with how I'm going to get there? If they're just trying to push me to pull my credit, I might want to pull back because I don't really feel like I'm getting the information that I need. So they must be willing to help you with no strings attached.
I think you would agree, right? There's a reason that people are trying to buy a home.
Yeah.
We don't usually just wake up and go, best idea ever to buy a home, and I have no reason why, right?
Correct.
Even if it's my investment property, my future, my family, all those reasons. There's a reason we do it, and I think what it takes is working with the right person who will stop to understand your reason, because your reason may dictate a different process than your best friend down the road who had a different reason, right? They
Yes.
went this one way on this one option, and you've got a different reason. You've got a different potential system to use or loan product like a VA loan, and
Yeah.
your reasons could be different.
Correct. So I think that like a lot of what's needed is just digging, right? People that ask the questions that are necessary because all of our goals aren't the same, right? I run into this all the time that, we don't all want the same thing. And so when someone is just, generalizing me with the rest of the population and not really digging in and investing the time to find out what my needs are, we might have a conflict.
That's such a good point, and I think that, and we're talking about being prepared, right? So one of the things that somebody might put right down, like, how am I going to get prepared to buy my first home? Number one thing to do: understand your reason. Why is it so important to me? And I see posts regularly where people are like, "Hey, I've got young kids, and I want to have a home to raise them in." Right? That's important to me. That was one of my missions as a dad and a husband. But it might be I'm just out of the military. You got a dog, right? Yeah.
I need a yard for my dog.
You need a yard for your dog, right? You need a yard for
Yeah.
your kids or your dog or whoever.
Yeah.
So there's a reason. So know your reason. Now they come in, they're like, "Hey, Isabel, you're nice. I saw you. I kind of got to know you on social. Like, I like who you say you are." What kind of questions are you going to ask them from the outset that they should be ready to answer at the very beginning?
Same thing. So, tell me a little bit about your goals.
Mm-hmm.
When do you want to buy? Is there like a deadline? Is your lease getting ready to expire?
Mm.
Have you talked to anybody else? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you spoken to anyone else? Do you have any questions that you can't find the answers for? So I try to really address their needs up in the beginning so that I know what information to provide. Because sometimes without the right questions, we're just not going to get the right answer. So I ask a lot of questions in the beginning. Tell me about your goals. Is there a deadline associated to it? Have you spoken to anyone else?
Right.
Once they're done kind of giving me that information, then we dig into what I know VA is going to ask. How long have you been on your job? Are you currently employed right now? Were you in school prior to that? When was the last time you looked at your credit? And a lot of times people say, well, I just checked it on Credit Karma. Not that Credit Karma is bad. It's good. It's great to show you like your recent activity, whether or not someone haven't opened up any credit in your name. But that's a free credit report versus an actual mortgage inquiry that we do. It's always different. So, but we educate through that as well. Why is my credit score different? Well, we have two different scoring models, right? This one is very mortgage specific, and they're looking at certain information that they would not need when you're applying for a credit card.
Yeah.
Or for a car, right?
Yeah.
Because those things are different.
So I want to disarm one of the questions that you said that you would ask, right? Why are you working with somebody else? I think when I first hear that as a consumer, I'm thinking, oh, are they trying to like box me out so I can't work with anybody else? Or why would you care? And I think we can disarm that pretty quickly, right? There's a good reason to ask that question. What's your reason for asking the question?
Because I want to know if they just recently had their credit pulled. If my client clearly knows their credit's really bad, I don't want them to feel like, oh my God, now you're going to pull my credit again and it's going to make it worse, right? Mm-hmm. So I only ask the question of, have you talked to anyone else, or are you currently working with anyone, so that I can kind of understand what your struggles are.
Right.
Is the person not responsive? Are they not helpful? Did they turn you down? Did they tell the client that they didn't qualify? Did they tell you why you didn't qualify? So I always ask about another professional so I can know, number one, to ask the right questions, but to not step on toes, to not make assumptions. So I do it more for knowledge, like what's going on in your current process. Where are you at?
It's really trying to get the lay of the land, right, before you actually dive in and go somewhere. The other thing that I would prepare, if you're getting prepared to buy, and buyer preparedness being the topic, be ready to dialogue about all of the financial dirty laundry you may feel you have, or if it comes up. Now, we've got horror stories, right? I'm sure you have horror stories where you were in a conversation with a married couple and things went south because somebody had a credit line that the other one didn't know about. I've personally had those, and that was awkward. But be ready, because when a lender is going to do an underwrite on who you are, your financial wellness has to be considered in all aspects.
Yeah. So they're not, I always say they're not doing it to decline the loan. They just want to know if there's something that they need to be aware about, right? Yeah. Their child support that's going to affect your ability to pay your mortgage every month. Is there, like the child support is kind of usually the most random one. Like it'll just pop up out of nowhere because, people pay it automatically. They kind of forget about it sometimes. And it's not always on, it's not a bill, right? So it's not going to show up on the credit report all the time. It's not always going to show up on the paycheck stub. Sometimes it's just an agreement between two adults. You're going to pay me X amount of dollars for our kids. We have children together. So the child support one I do see sometimes comes back and bites us a little bit because people will go through the questions, but people, sometimes they just forget. I don't think anyone's really being deceitful. They just, oh shoot, yeah, I've got child support. I forgot about that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. In buyer preparedness, now there's a lot of financial around it, but there needs to be a lot of understanding about where you want to live and what you can truly afford, right? So how do you have a conversation with first-time home buyers about affordability and what that looks like?
So I just ask them questions, right? Because I don't like to assume. Like in my market, you cannot find a rental property for under $1,500. It just doesn't exist. Right. It's just not available. I'm in South Florida, and if it does, it's in a really bad place. So if you can afford $1,500 or maybe $1,600 or let's say $1,800, stretch yourself a little bit more, but you're going to get a house over an apartment. You have to consider the fact that you are upgrading. Yes, your mortgage might be a little higher than your rent, but if you compare the two, you're currently living in a one-bedroom versus a single-family home with a backyard.
Yeah.
So we have those conversations a lot, just because sometimes we get stuck on the payment and we're not really looking at the increased asset that we're about to purchase, right? This whole time you've been paying rent for the last umpteen years, 10 years, 15 years. And then you get ready to move out of the apartment. You might be lucky if they even give you back your deposit. You're not going to gain any equity. There's no appreciation that happens over that period of you renting. So we do dig into that and we talk about it because it's important. You know, you're going from, your mind is shifting, so the experience is about to change.
So there's that side, right? There's the side of, hey, I'm used to paying this in my rent. Can I get a house for this much? And you have that conversation. Now, what's the flip side is they were out driving down the neighborhood, saw one of the houses for sale, and like they quickly Googled what's my payment, mortgage payment on this at a 30-year fixed, and they don't actually fully understand how that's calculated. They walk in and go, I want to get qualified for this X amount purchase property, and you're like, well, that's a $1,900 payment. They're like, what? Google said it was only $1,350, and you're like, let me walk you through that.
Yeah.
What are some of the changes? Yeah, taxes and insurance. And how does that shock? How do you prepare people when they're thinking about buying for the full payment?
We break it down line item by line item, so we can understand what the actual mortgage itself is, and then what are those additional costs, and what impacts them. Where are they coming from? I think that I'm always not surprised, actually. I'm going to take that back. I'm never surprised by it because it happens so often. You know, you only know what the mortgage payment is going to be because that's what the mortgage calculator looks at, right? You plug in, like you said, 300,000, 400,000 at a rate of 2.5, you know, and it spits out this number, and you're like, oh, I can afford that. That's cheaper than my rent.
Right.
But it's not asking about the taxes and the insurance. Yep. They've never asked about the taxes and insurance. So we just go line by line so people understand why it went from $1,200 to $1,700. Where'd the other $500 a month come from?
So the other thing that I want to briefly touch on, then we have a question here that I want to get to, but the question is interest rates, right? So we see a lot of people, and VETA has taken a position where we're not really publishing a lot of interest rates because they change for people. Yes. So walk me through a quick dialogue with a first-time buyer, with somebody getting prepared. What should I expect when I walk in, and the dialogue around interest rates?
It's real straightforward, at least for my office, right? Because I can't speak for everyone else. We literally will research all the lenders based on your credit score and your profile. So it's not just the credit.
And loan type, right? Yeah, that you're going to qualify for.
Exactly. What kind of loan program are we choosing? What's your credit score? What area are we buying in? Are we purchasing a single family home versus a condo? All of these things affect the rate. So it's not, I've got an 800 credit score, so I should get a 2.25. That's not really how it works, right? There's layers of risk. A condo is more risky than a single family home, and the rate will reflect that. So we go through their profile. What type of property are they buying? Where are they buying at? What's their current credit score? What program are we going to be using? And then I will open up my rate sheet for all of my lenders, and I will go through every one of them, and I will say to them, there's some companies that are super low, but the servicing is horrible. And I won't personally, I know I should probably, be unbiased, but I'm a little biased because I think the service is very important.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm entrusting this client to a end lender that's going to take care of them. So I'm a little biased. That weighs in the decision, but I will tell my client and still let them choose, right? I do not assume for anyone. I just let them know. I give them the information, and they say, Isabel, that's what I want. Let me do that right there. So there's never any pressure. We don't push them into a particular rate or a particular program. We review all their options that they qualify for, and then we let them determine what is best for them. I give them a professional opinion, but my opinion doesn't always match their desire.
That's a really good way to put it, right? So you don't steer them to a particular lender. You show them the cost. You show them the benefit. You show them how. And I want to reiterate this for anybody considering buying their first property. When you sign that 30-year mortgage, 15-year mortgage, whatever you're going to sign, nobody gives you a plaque and says, congratulations on the best rate I've ever seen in my life. So that tends to be one of those things that we want to compare over dinner parties or drinks with our buddies. But remember, the cost and benefit are different for everybody. So if you go in with a preconceived notion that I want 2.25 and nothing higher, but only a lower, understand that there's a cost associated with that. And it'll be laid out. Isabel and her team will lay it all out for you and say, you are welcome to get it. Here's what it'll take.
Exactly. Because the bank is in the business of making money, right? We all understand this. This is how it's set up. Okay. So we're not naive to the fact that the industry is built for financial gain for these large lenders. So I will provide the information and let the borrower choose. Because some of my clients say, Isabel, I just don't want to, I've got a savings account. I don't want to liquidate it.
Yeah.
I don't want to come into the closing with all my money and not have a penny to my name when I'm done.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's look at maybe is there an option to take a little bit of a higher rate and get some money back from the lender to have them pay your closing costs? Is that something you want to consider? And you'd be surprised that the difference in the rate isn't that much, and it really doesn't even affect the payment very much.
Right.
So we go through all of those options because every client has a different need.
Right. And it's about personalization of that to
Correct.
fulfill that need. All right, I'm going to ask this question that popped up here. It says, what do you suggest, or what would you suggest about transitioning, retiring from overseas? So I want to buy. They're retiring from overseas. You need to show income, but you aren't in the country to find a job.
Yes.
Man, there's a lot there. And we can refer to the lender handbook. Like, let's start, I think, chapter 2. We're going to start with qualifications.
Yeah.
But yeah, you walk us through it.
So in that instance, because you're not stateside, you're getting ready to leave your job, right? And there is no job that's here waiting for you. But the truth is, you have to secure employment if we want to use that additional income. Now, if you're retired and you have pension or disability income, that might be enough. You may not need the job. But this is why it's so important to kind of have someone actually look at your income, your credit, your scenario to see, can you purchase without having an actual job here stateside? Because I've had a lot of veterans that have their pension and their disability and they don't need additional income to qualify.
Right.
But if you do, then you have to wait.
I said chapter 2. I'm sorry, it's chapter 4, section 2 of the VA handbook, pamphlet 26-7. And that's where it goes into subsection R, talks about other income types, right? So if you are going to retire, but you have to show what? 3 years or more of continuation of that income.
Correct. So disability typically tends to be permanent. So, disability letter suffices. Pension also tends to be permanent, so that is enough. We don't have to have anything else there. But if you're receiving, I don't know what turns off sometimes, child support, right? Child support, we were just talking about that.
Right, yeah.
Child support ends, right? Kids turn 18. After 18, they can't get you're not receiving child support any longer. So if the child is 15 or older, I can't count the child support because of the continuation requirement. We're short the 3 years. So there's income like that does end.
So trick question, just because you brought it up. Does child support income have to be calculated in your qualification?
Not required.
Not required.
But you can use it.
Not trick question it right at all. You're right. I knew you'd get that one right. So the question here, but if you're coming from overseas, you're right. There's maybe not a job lined up. So what if you are coming from overseas and you do get a job lined up? What will it take to fulfill the requirements then to get closed on a home?
You need an offer letter, right? Now, during COVID, some of the lenders are requiring at least one paycheck stub before you close because they want to make sure that the offer letter is legitimate, right? It has nothing to do with you, but more with the environment that we're currently in. Previously, VA didn't really care, right? Because you got an offer letter, they know you're going to get the job. But now with the environment that we're in, a majority of the lenders are now requiring, in conjunction with the offer letter, at least one paycheck stub to confirm that you've started your employment and that you're currently.
Good. Okay. So that answers that question pretty well.
But not all.
So we're going to wrap this up. We got one last question. I want to address this because we do talk about this a lot in our group. That's the one-time construction. So somebody just said, hey, I'm looking at possibly getting the VA construction loan called a perm loan. It's a OTC or one-time construction, one-time close, construction loan. There you go, OTC construction. And a lender said they're not doing it anymore because of COVID. Now, as brokers partner with a number of wholesale lenders. And there are retail or structured lenders which only have one channel of funding. So you can get a different answer from different people. And that's okay. That's how it works. What I would tell this person asking here, we actually have another video in this group about the OTC, the one-time close VA construction loan. There are lenders still doing it. This individual is looking at the Tampa area. So please search the group, and we'll dive
Yeah.
in there. But
We've had
some are specialists and some are not. I'm sorry, Isabel. Go ahead. I just interrupted you.
I was going to say, basically what you're saying, Nate, is, it's not everybody's specialty because it is more complex and more
Yep.
involved. I don't want to say it's harder,
Mhm.
but it is definitely more involved, right? It's not as easy as walking into a home that's already there. It's done.
Right.
You know what you're getting. When you do a construction loan, there's so many steps and processes. You got to get the land cleared to build. Your builder actually has to have a VA builder ID.
Yep.
So there is a process not only of approving you, but approving the property that's about to be built and the
Yep.
builder that's about to build it.
The builder / general contractor,
Correct.
they have to be approved as well. Yeah.
Correct. And what I run into a lot is that people will have a friend that was a general contractor once upon a time, and they haven't built any properties in the last 12 months. Yeah, that's kind of not going to work.
Yeah. The
because
VA will not
you want to
approve them
make
on
sure that the person that's building the property is a true professional. This is something they do on a daily basis and
Yep.
not just on a one-off.
Yep.
Yeah.
For that same reason, you cannot, in a VA OTC, you can't just build yourself and get qualified for it. So there's more on that for that user that posts that question. I'm going to make sure to tag you in our OTC live that we did a couple weeks ago and make sure that's the answer there. Well, Isabel, I really appreciate it. I appreciate the oversight. And any last words you would love to give the group and the watchers?
You know what? Set the goal, move in, take action. Don't be afraid. You're in a safe environment. Ask all the questions that you want, as crazy as you think they sound. There's going to probably be someone that has gone through the exact same experience that's more than willing to share, because we're all here to help each other.
Yeah. And actually, that just reminds me of I got a message this morning from somebody who was afraid of asking too many questions in the group and wasn't sure where to talk. And they're like, I have 1,000,001 questions. I don't know where to start. And here's what they said. They said, can I call somebody, and how much does it cost to ask and have consultation? I'm like, it costs nothing, even if they're not vetted at all. I mean, because this is what you do.
Yeah.
But I will also say that any of the professionals we have in vetted VA who have gone through the testing, who go through the moderation, who are gone through the training and are committed and being held accountable to this, they will give fully of themselves as often as needed as possible with no expectation of anything in return. That's, maybe it sounds counterintuitive to a business structure, but it's about service, and it's about getting people prepared and in the property for the long term. And I know that's you. I know that's you in a nutshell.
Yes.
So.
It's all about the community. We're just here to help.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to encounter the bad information that's out there by providing the right, good, solid foundation, cited and sourced information.
Yes. We'd rather you ask than not.
Absolutely.
Because, why not? It's available. So post away.
It's here. Ask the questions.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Isabel, really appreciate it. I'm going to tag you in the group here. Your squad's on watch today. You guys will be active answering questions, and we'll follow up there. But really appreciate it. Isabel, if anybody wants to find you, go to vettedva.com and click on the state of Florida.
Yes, because that's all I'm only in Florida.
You're only in Florida.
For now.
She's there. That's right. She's got visions of grandeur. No, I'm just kidding. She's about giving visions of service. But yeah, all of our vetted professionals can be found, both real estate and lenders can be found on vettedva.com. On the map, just click your state and you'll find the directory of those that are licensed in that state.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Well, have a great afternoon, ma'am. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye.